Now, I'm not sure about all of you, but I consider myself a League of Legends enjoyer. Wait, did I say enjoyer? Yeah, I'm not so sure that's the right word.
I'm stunned. Like, look at the game, dude! Look at the game! Look at the game! It's actually insane, dude! You have no idea, man! I can't handle it anymore, dude! Dude, alright, dude. I don't know, dude. I just quit. They stole my red! They stole my red! I can't even play. I can't play, please.
It gets to my head. It makes me lightheaded. I'm lightheaded right now because this guy's AFK. Why are you AFK? Why is he AFK? Why is he AFK? Why is he AFK? Why is he AFK?
Nah, man, I'm getting so triggered. Who is the? Look at my keyboard, man. I don't know how I'm gonna play.
Ha-ha! Remember this day you almost caught T1. Thrash! Thrash!
Despite anything, League of Legends is most definitely the largest competitive game on the market. It dominates esports, and for some, it is their entire life, like some you just saw, which results in some very intense emotion at times. League of Legends contains countless champions, 101 to be exact, and the latest came out just 2 days ago as of recording this. And every single one of these champions oozes personality, and everybody has their own favourite. Is yours the sadistic and cunning Fresh from the Shadow Isles, a restless spirit that likes to torture people? Or maybe the brutal predator Rengar who just likes hunting people for the fun of it? Or maybe you've watched Arcane and you love Jinx, the manic, impulsive criminal who has a bigger heart than you'd expect underneath. No matter your choice, as you can see, the game is overflowing with character, with champions, but in the end, the game is just an action-based multiplayer game. You get some dialogue and a unique persona with some abilities, but that's it. It doesn't celebrate the stories of these characters. So that leaves the question, what can League of Legends do with these influential, unique champions if they get an entire single player game? Will a lengthy single player game show the characters are more shallow than we thought? Or instead, in a rich new setting, will it allow these characters to shine brighter than ever before? Knowing nothing about this game going in, I'm fairly confident they will nail the gameplay. I mean, League of Legends has proven some of the most gratifying smooth gameplay on the market, but story building, world building, character depth, progression and writing? They did it for Arcane, but let's see if they can do it again. As my returning viewers will know, I won't just be finishing Ruined King, but I will also be completing it. That means every trophy, leaving no stone unturned, giving you the full experience as the developers intended it, reviewed and analysed for your viewing pleasure. So join me, let's find out if completing Ruined King will make me appreciate League of Legends more, or if it will break me more than a match with a Nunu running it down. The first step in completing a game is to check if there are any missable trophies or difficulty related trophies. For Ruined King, I must finish the game on the hardest difficulty, Heroic, and be very careful to acquire the missable trophies. Apex Predator, I guess Apex Legends was taken, and good listener. For Apex Predator, I need to encounter every enemy in the game. There is apparently some skippable encounters that I have to be careful about. The second trophy is Good Listener, which is much more simple. I just have to exhaust all dialogue at campsites whenever I get the opportunity. I don't really know what that means right now, but I must do it. Otherwise, it's just playing the game, doing as much as I can and mopping up some post-game content. Seemingly a nice, relaxing experience that doesn't require 10 identical playthroughs like the last game we checked out. As you can see, the game doesn't waste time succinctly introducing the world, setting and characters. Immediately, you see a game 1000 years in the making as a handsome prince, this is Viego, dies reviving his lover, or wife, or girlfriend, or Tinder friend. Quickly, we see snapshots of the same world 1000 years later, a polar opposite to its once regal landscape. It also very smartly, I think it does at least, show us all of the characters that we're either going to play as or meet. And other than the actual gameplay, this small exchange shows us everything we need to know. After the intriguing cutscene showing me a League of Legends world rivaling Arcane, I immediately head into a new game, selecting the dauntingly described Heroic. Very difficult in capital letters, eh? We shall see about that. The game immediately sets up the character Miss Fortune, and it does it extremely well, and extremely simply through cutscenes. She worked hard to seek vengeance in the pirate-infested land of Bilgewater against the monstrous pirate Gangplank who killed her mother. She also talks about the threat of other equally vicious monsters from the Shadow Isles. Most are kept away by a mystical force called the Buru, but occasionally something called the Harrowing happens where black mist ascends from the ocean and assaults the living. Through this quick and simple cutscene, we get to know everything important. First, Miss Fortune is an established character in the universe whose backstory has been finalised. She is now Pirate Queen of Bilgewater, and even though it's infested with monsters, there are far worse monsters on the horizon that will attack the monsters she now protects. Whilst Miss Fortune, or Sarah Fortune, completed her objective to kill Gangplank, we also find out that she has not emotionally recovered. Pretty classic revenge story, so I'm personally glad it's out the way. Someone seeks revenge, they hurt themselves and others doing so, those they care about, and then they enact revenge and they see what it costs them, only to be left with nothing. Many games and movies have tried to tackle revenge plots, and truthfully, they're boring. They're one-dimensional and they create underwhelming experiences. Last of Us Part 2. So thankfully, we get to experience, after that, all the emotional baggage, none of the boring revenge story weighing us down. Adding to the stakes and interest, we find that she is not actually the Queen of Bilgewater yet. Instead, she faces issues of control, the hardest part of winning a war. You can kill the king, but you can never control his people. If only someone would be put in this fort in a certain someone's head. Anyway, as Sarah faces this mutiny, we are introduced to combat. Firstly, regarding combat. The shift in graphics that happens is amazing. Outside of combat, the world is more blurred, the resolution is lower, and everything is zoomed out. This sounds bad, but in reality it isn't, and it makes sense, because when you go into combat, the resolution increases. It zooms in, and it makes the entire combat feel more up close and personal, whilst being exceedingly beautiful to look at. Essentially, when you're not fighting, you're kind of looking at the world in a more blurred way. It's not until you start fighting that you focus. The art style also carries the same mesmerising, painterly look as Arcane, though as you'll see, there are a few moments where the art style kind of changes in a way that doesn't feel cohesive. Second, the difficulty is quickly evident, and I mean this in the best way. Normally a game is almost insultingly easy, and it provides a first tutorial with constant text boxes and an easy encounter where you can't die, or at times one that's just completely railroaded. But not in Ruined King. I actually get concerned with how much damage I'm taking during this tutorial fight, and actually have to read, check buttons, and work out what things do myself. That's right, a game that lets you experiment with its systems. I learned myself that there is more to combat order than they said. Rather than simply being turn-based, you can assume quick, balanced, or slow, but powerful stances that change skills and damage, but they make your turn order slower or faster. I loosely get informed about certain mechanics such as overcharging, but I didn't really understand what they were at this point. I loved it though. The game didn't try to teach me everything. It taught me the absolute essentials and tempted me with all the tools and buttons needed to go forwards. It let me experiment. It isn't insulting, it feels in-depth but not overly complex, and it's gorgeous to boot. Considering this beautiful art, you'd think that it reflects on the maturity of the game, right? Like Disney, Pixar, these very colourful, painterly art styles. Wrong. Miss Fortune, Sarah Fortune, she is brutal, and the world is brutal too, as is evident when she just shoots this disarmed, failed captain in the head.
Meeting is adjourned.
A very short moment that sets up your expectation and understanding of the world and makes you question if you're even playing as a good person. Are you just somebody who got wrapped up in revenge, or possibly just a very cold-hearted person that's been broken by loss? I also did not know that she was the main character. Or is she? Moving forwards, the mist starts assaulting us, ghostly figures ambush us, and we fight back with new combat mechanics. The game cements here the importance of the lane system. that it needs to be used to bypass enemy abilities, such as the speed lane avoiding explosions on death, and that environmental hazards like poison mist are avoidable if you move yourself to the correct lane. It's a very unique element to a turn-based system, and whilst it's too soon for me to tell if it's good, I like that it adds a sort of well-thought puzzle-like element to a traditionally sound but stale combat system. The combat and difficulty does not decrease as I move through this tutorial area. It gets progressively tougher until I find myself having to chug healing potions every turn just to stay alive. All because I made one single mistake and accidentally went into an environmental hazard. The difficulty feels completely fair so far though, and a challenge I welcome. Plus, after playing League of Legends for god knows 7 years, you quickly learn that nothing is as difficult as climbing out of bronze elo. After this difficult encounter, Sarah mentions this may be another harrowing, and if so, we need Illaoi. Nobody knows how to say her name, but another massively beloved and terrifying champion. It's interesting that so many studios, movies, shows, networks, they all struggle with the subject of diversity. Yet Riot has always made it look so easy. Every character they pump out is so rich in character, lore and diversity, yet everybody loves them. Race never feels forced or constructed for a character, but a appreciated and beautiful part of what makes them unique.
Truth bearer, I wish to fight for you. I am ready.
Are you? If you fight with everything you have, the Mother Serpent may name you worthy. If not, she will take your life.
I surrender to her will.
Unworthy. Perhaps, if the goddess wills it. Come, our enemy awaits.
As such, we now get to play as Illaoi, a character I've never really known anything about, other than she is scary strong and employs ghost tentacles. Hey, you weebs, watch it, calm down. Anyway, all we really get to know about her is that she is an aspirant alcoholic who encourages what seems to be a minor to start drinking.
Interesting desires.
Sister, I have seen you indulge in their taverns. Do not be ashamed. Next time I will join you.
The game does let us know her ghost tentacles come from a golden idol drawing power from the great Kraken, and that she's joined by the god of the Serpent Isles, who I think is the Kraken. They don't really make that clear. The game also teaches us different champions have different abilities usable outside of combat, so we may have some old school Final Fantasy dungeons on our hands here too. Shortly after testing out the character's name, which I don't dare say because I will definitely say it wrong, her unique combat style, which is decently different than Misfortune's, we come across what seems to be our first dungeon. I'm able to explore and fight as I see fit, which is good because I very quickly learned the game has equipable loot that changes, at least weapons, cosmetically. I didn't expect this because the characters have iconic designs and weapons that are what they are and are very good. But loot is always extremely welcome, and considering League of Legends features probably the most cash shop cosmetics ever, it offers some really awesome potential for this game going forwards. I find out about the skill tree, where levelling up provides skill points that allow you to manipulate how abilities function. It looks simple but effective, though I wonder how it will last throughout the game and how much impact it will have on playstyles. When I played Stranger of Paradise recently, that looked good too, but ended up just being a short-lived stat point picker, where this looks like it really impacts how combat functions. I also discover boons. You find them in the open maps and in combat. They provide positive hazards for you to try and enter using the different lanes to gain different benefits, which in this case is healing. The game is slowly unravelling mechanics and ways the player can manipulate combat in their favour, or turn the tides of battle when it isn't in their favour. The mechanics don't stop either, as the game then introduces a wave system, another new combat mechanic, though I feel it would be something more helpful to know in the overworld rather than in combat. At that point, when you're in combat and there's a wave of 10 enemies, it might be a little bit too late to know that. It doesn't take long to find a new piece of armour, and my suspicion was correct. It didn't change anything cosmetically. This isn't to say you won't find that later on, but it certainly feels strange after getting that awesome weapon upgrade to receive a piece of armor and it does nothing. Plus, considering again that League of Legends is known for amazing character designs and expensive skins, you'd assume they could manage a measly piece of armor. Though I also saw some skins on the PlayStation Store, so it only adds to my suspicion that they may have just decided to take a shortcut here and get a little extra money. I mean, think about it. People that play League of Legends, they are used to cosmetics, they are used to microtransactions, so why put all of that time into making a feature and having armor that affects the characters when you can just sell that, as you already do, as a cosmetic extra? Yes, amazing tactical RPGs have already added in-game cosmetics before, such as the awesome Lord of the Rings The Third Age. But they don't need to do that. They can just sell the cosmetics and earn extra money. Oh, and don't think I'm just being critical, because as you watch this video, you are going to see so many examples where they have cut corners. Here we meet another beloved champion, Pyke. Well, beloved for the people that play him, for those on the receiving end of this support/assassin, not so much. The exchange here between Alawi and Pyke is heated. Pyke showing indifference while Alawi is passionately against his existence. It establishes lore surrounding the two and forms what we see as them judging a book by its cover. Will we get to see character development between the two and the other party members, or will it just be finding reasons to bring an unlikely band together against a common foe? Whatever the case, Alawi should not have been indifferent, because Pyke's first move in combat is one-shot killing a teammate. Whilst shocking, it does a great job at replicating the experience of Pyke from League of Legends in a more cohesive setting, where the combat looks more believable and beautifully animated. At this point in the fight, I knew that my teammates would die, and also if this is the Pyke that I know, he will just want to one-shot the weaker enemies, and probably has bonuses for doing so. So I simply start blocking with my teammates, making him last as long as possible, and that works. Pyke wastes a lot of time attacking the blocking party member, whilst Alawi just builds up tentacles which do tons of damage later on. This is one of the few consistent things that happens throughout the entire game, and that is that what you choose in combat actually really matters, as you'll learn as you continue to watch, because this game gets absolutely brutal, but always manageable. After defeating Pyke, Alawi uses the same strange technique she uses on a man in her intro cutscene, and she discovers that Pyke is worthy. Her goddess has chosen this monstrosity to her as worthy. Alawi takes it pretty badly and she falls to the floor. I thought this was strange at first, but then again, I'm sure we've all been there. You judge someone, then you have a real hard time accepting they ain't so bad, except, you know, we don't fall to the floor clutching our heart and blaming our god. We do get to see Alawi explain why she took it so badly though. Pyke is undead, and she believes that she is making the wrong choice. Rather than her goddess being wrong or believing him worthy, it's actually just that Alawi can't use her worthiness power anymore. She just doubts her ability to decide if somebody is right or wrong. It's really well done, and it tackles the concept of somebody who lives based on faith having trouble with belief. Almost immediately, we meet another classic champion, Braum. A hilarious yet subtle touch here is that he washed up ashore with sea debris on a shield that normally doesn't have it. Braum explains he travelled because his land is stricken with a plague. He heard that a place existed called the Blessed Isles, which had sacred water that could cure illness. Probably the same water that revived Viego's wife in the introduction scene. However, he also explains the Blessed Isles was consumed by the Black Mist and is now the Shadow Isles. So, Braum, against all odds, goes anyway. Only to get shipwrecked. Nothing makes somebody a bigger chad than failing and immediately getting back up, and as you'll learn watching this, Braum is indisputably, conclusively, and only the most perfect goat that has ever existed.
Thank you, Bram.
Sorry, what did you call him, Alawi? I think it's pronounced Braum, not Brum. Are you referring that Braum is the hit character Brum from the hit UK children's show Brum, which is a reference to the noise that a car makes? So now you're telling me I've been saying his name wrong, Alawi, and it's not Braum, it's Brum, and okay, I will remember that. I'll call him Brum just for you. Thank you, Alawi. Appreciate that. Brum quickly joins the party and we see his unique playstyle involving massive biceps and little poros to get hidden items. He joins because he believes if he removes the Black Mist, he can get the water needed from the Blessed Isles. The reason for him joining does feel fairly forced, but it isn't the worst. It by far cannot be easy to have reasons for characters across a massive world all to convene and team up like this. It would be like finding out your local pub has a rat infestation, so you travel to Japan and ask PewDiePie to assist you in going to Spain and find the legendary rat repellent of Slaughter +1. To be fair, he seems pretty chill, maybe he'd do it, but that's not the point. I find a rumour monger where I can buy rumours. Strange to have to pay for side quests, but it adds an interesting thematic believability, I guess, plus who doesn't want to pay for a fetch quest? The side quest is quickly mopped up, and whilst it offers a slightly interesting moral dilemma of telling someone grieving who killed the one they lost, it has issues with writing. Now, I'm hoping this doesn't persist, but the dialogue options feel incredibly lifeless, which, when you're playing a game filled with unique characters, and I just played a game prior to this with the best writing I've ever seen, check my latest video on Disco Elysium for that, it feels really bad to be able to say as Brum to a grieving man it's his own fault. It's weird, it's out of character, it doesn't feel like something the goofy, big-hearted, big-muscled Brum would say. Even when the dialogue wasn't uncharacteristic, it was just bland. If the side quest persists like this, I would have preferred they were not in the game at all. But let's see how they develop. I stumble across a fishing minigame which is apparently spread throughout the entire game and I can catch big fish and loads of treasure, so I go buy a rod and lure and give it a go. Now, truthfully, I had no idea what I was doing. I just threw the line in and I smashed X to reel it in. Not really much strategy there. However, I was rewarded incredible loot for doing so, so I did this for a bit in hopes of snagging some potions or items to sell later. I also heard mention of getting special rewards for some fish for a black market, so I work on getting 10 fish chunks by catching and chunking fish apparently. Why the black market wants smelly fish chunks from my pocket, I don't know. Whatever the case for this little freak wanting pungent fish chunks, I've always liked fishing minigames, and especially when the music whilst you do it is as beautiful as it is in this game. Sadly, the fishing spot runs out of chunks. I even try leaving the area and going back, and it's chunkless, so I just move on with the game. Gotta love it when your RPGs make grinding even more difficult. Or at least I try to move on. As typical for an RPG, some bandits try to gouge me for the 2 coins I didn't want to spend on potions. I learned during this fight that when a hazard or boon isn't present, a wildcard is instead. A random area that provides benefits to anyone, friend or foe, who stands within. Though some champions, such as Brum, can push enemies and manipulate where they stand in the lanes. Again, it seems like a really good fighting system that merges traditional JRPG combat with some new puzzle-like innovations, and random elements to boot to keep things spicy. My prediction was that the developers would nail the core gameplay, and they definitely are so far. Even with Brum joining the party, now having a total of 2 champions, this is tough combat. I try my hardest to not just keep downing potions and get through the battle, but these enemies deal big damage, and for once in this game, these bandits are no joke. I'm a little unsure how the legendary Brum and Alawi, who defeated the Harrowing and dragons apparently with Brum, are struggling with bandits. But still, I guess Brum really relies on his own shield rather than a giant piece of wood. And for Alawi, I don't know, I guess she left her favourite tentacle at home, or these e-goal problems. Due to this tough fight, and the fact that I'm now looting the city for everything it has, I end up running into an enemy that is described as simply having a dagger, and I choose to back off. This is the level of fear that the game has actually instilled in me, and how tough the combat is, because the enemy has just been described as having the most basic weapon possible, and I do not want to go near it. Here I get some freedom with the dialogue. I can reply however I'd like, and I make the mistake of trying to smooth talk somebody for a side quest and end up having to fight anyway. I try to play it smartly and carefully. I use Brum to block and taunt whilst building up Alawi's tentacles. I try to get Alawi into the healing zone wildcard whilst using Brum to push the enemy out. And Brum just gets critical hit, one shot. Damn RPGs. Luckily I can revive him, but my big criticism of these traditional JRPG combat systems is that it's so easy to just get stuck in a revive die loop. Luckily, even on the heroic difficulty, the enemy damage and combat pace is balanced enough that this doesn't happen, though we shall see about this for the future. I just about make it through the first fight though, and immediately start saving every 2 steps in case that happens again. And it's lucky I do this, because just 4 steps later I get ambushed opening a chest. Way to punish us RPG players for thinking we own the world. Bilgewater fights back. Now, I'm in an even tougher fight with no mana on Brum, and I stand absolutely no chance at all. Some may consider this unfair or punishing, and compared to other games it may well be that, but I like to think that the game is just teaching me that the world is unforgiving, and I need to be more prepared, rather than just walking around as if there's no worry. So I stop worrying, and I really carefully head straight to misfortune. For real this time. When the game suggests I equip myself using the nearby shops, unlike in any other RPG, I do not hoard my gold in this game, and I stock myself head to tentacle in whatever I can find, which, to be honest, is just more potions than any person would humanly be able to carry. At this moment I learn a few things. First, I can use items I've been gaining to make enchantments in the menu, providing powerful buffs to my champion's equipment. However, they cost a lot of resources I currently have no way of getting. Second, I find the journal where I have rewards for some reason. The reward is a skill point for Alawi, however, hilariously it also spoils every other character I'll get in my party. Way to ruin the suspense, devs, seeing as I got spoiled. Here you go, you guys can join me. This is the entire cast of the game, enjoy, from minute 1. Then again, I guess they just used to put them in the booklets, didn't they? So yes, never mind about that. I do actually find out pretty quickly though, the reason that I got this skill point was because when you collect the lore notes in the game, they accumulate points that go towards unlocking skill points for characters. This is great for any completionist, as these lore notes actually make you more powerful, which is far superior to most games where they do absolutely nothing. Earlier I mentioned how the chain system was a bit useless to find out inside of combat and it was needed outside. Well, the devs are actually smart and that does exist, I guess I just didn't notice it. Here I run into chained enemies accidentally, and then run for my life intentionally. As far as I'm aware, the game never mentions this, but I noticed that the enemies show their intent on who they're going to attack. Sometimes. I don't know why they do sometimes and why they don't in other times. But this really helps when knowing how to block, and gives the player strategic option to block or power through or just react to a situation. Later in the game, this very simple minor thing is what gives me the ability to get through fights that I otherwise would not be able to. The game does a good job of cementing the complicated relationships between characters. Alawi is a past lover of Gangplank who was killed by misfortune. On a personal level they are not close, but they work together professionally. It isn't particularly complex or unique, but it is complicated, and that's good for character development and an interesting party composition. She does not join us though, sadly, and we depart as a duo to a place called Grey Harbour, where we find out Gangplank is still alive. Game now switches us to play as Yasuo, possibly one of the most popular champions that exists, and we are joined by a mysterious woman. Now, we know her as Ari thanks to the opening cutscene spoiling us and the lore compendium also spoiling us. Yasuo, the Asian man from Ionia, hilariously has the most generic American voice acting I have ever heard.
I like to know what I'm getting myself into. Besides, I can't protect you when you won't tell me simple things like who you are or where we're going.
You seem on edge.
One of those voices you've heard from countless other games. Now, this is somewhat subjective and personal opinion, but I hear a lot of very overused voice actors in this game. They sound very American and very generic. This is something I've never really been a fan of. It kind of takes some believability out of the game for me, and it removes personality as well. There are amazing voice actors such as Brum and Alawi. They have such unique accents and dialects, and it blends wonderfully into the game. but the vast majority just sound like bargain bin American voice actors that are in everything and play the default generic NPCs that you run into. I want to make it clear, I'm not saying American voice actors aren't good, because that isn't the case, and that obviously isn't true because loads of the best voice actors are American. But it just doesn't work if everybody or the vast majority have an American accent. It removes believability and it just turns the game into America. Imagine Star Wars. You have those on Tatooine who have an American accent, and then you have the Empire, which have very high-strung, eloquent British accents. Then you have the League of Legends universe. You have the Noxians, which have American accents. You have Bilgewater, which have American accents. You have the Ionians, which have American accents. You have the Ruined People, which have American accents, and you get the idea. It's so interesting seeing Yasuo brought to life in this game, only because his stoic and honourable self is most unlike the ADHD-filled average Yasuo player zipping around manically trying to take on 4 people alone with little regard for anything else. The two, Yasuo and Ahri, make an interesting duo though, a lonely woman who lost her tribe and has been alone for 100 years with a very serious stoic warrior. I don't fully understand Ahri, she seems to be somewhat vampiric, she feeds on people or memories, but not gonna lie, I kinda ship it anyway. Switching back to Brum and Alawi, we get a fairly tough encounter. The second wave rolls around and a very daunting enemy arrives. Luckily, Yasuo comes to our aid and quickly and easily dispatches the enemy with the new ultimate ability system. For those of you that don't know much about League, the ultimate abilities are kind of the heart and soul of a character. It's the reason that you play them. It's that really awesome ability you get once every 1 to 3 minutes. They can have absolutely insane impacts on a fight, and this game knows that, and they do great at replicating that feeling in this game and giving you an awesome ultimate ability that impacts combat massively. Feeling confident, I keep pushing on, only to get myself into a free wave encounter. I'm not sure at all how to avoid getting the enemies all clumped together, but whatever, I gotta win now. And I do. With relative control, I definitely feel myself getting better at the game, however I only just make it out with Brum alive on a measly 1 HP. I feel myself improving and understanding the game for sure, but by no means is it easy. You are always one mistake away from death. Usually in an RPG like this, the ultimate abilities are something that you reserve for the moments that you really need them, but not in Ruin King. This is because you accrue ultimate ability meter points and you have to use them in the fight that you're in. They don't reserve for the next battle, so you're encouraged to use them as you have them. This doesn't make the combat unbalanced, because the more opportunity you have to use something, the more influence the player has over managing and controlling that. For instance, imagine a survival game where you only get 4 healing items throughout the entire game. You're not going to pick those items based on when you think you might need them, or strategy, or anything. You're going to have them in that one emergency that might pop up, and you're going to not use them, you're going to hoard them. It isn't good. So yes, I much prefer the way this game does the ultimate ability, letting you use them freely as much as you need them, and plus it really helps when they look as awesome as Brum's.
The hand of the Freljord!
I have my first encounter with an interactable dungeon element. Here, I can send Brum's Poro, which by the way is in the top 5 cutest mascots ever made. Maybe I should make a video about that actually. Anyway, you just have to switch to Brum. Press a button and get free stuff. It isn't particularly hidden, and it isn't hard to do, so I'm not entirely sure why it's here. What's the difference between making it something anyone can do or just a chest that's there, and why have Brum do this? There isn't. It doesn't offer anything. Maybe this mechanic is expanded upon later, but as it stands, it's just why? What's the point? Now, on the subject of things being pointless, I get this overwhelming feeling that Yasuo's ultimate ability is just simply the best. I mean, I can one-shot an enemy with him, I can get a tiny 56 shield with Brum, or a little healing and a little bit of damage with Alawi? No, I think I'll take the one-shot kill against bosses, thank you game. Upon entering this room, you get a very, very simple puzzle. A safe tells you the code when inspecting it, though not the order. Even if you can't work out the order based on the clue, it's very simple to just guess your way there. It's 4 numbers. Then, even if you fail that, a painting in the room just tells you the exact code. It's a little strange to have such a childlike puzzle, and I mean honest to God, Peppa Pig puzzle, in a game I thought was meant for older gamers who play League of Legends and want a gripping experience. Not sure who these puzzles are for. Then again, as they say, 2IQ jungler probably couldn't handle this Peppa Pig puzzle, could they? At level 8, I unlock runes, a further way to personalise combat styles and add my own little touch to this RPG. Runes are statistical changes to the character rather than abilities. You get 2 distinct choices that change how the character functions, which for Yasuo I chose Way of the Wind to seemingly focus on critical hits. Braum has Bulwark, which is my defense option, or Strongman, which is more offensive. I'm not into that. Whilst Alawi has Kraken Priestess, which makes her a better healer, or Guardian, which makes her better defensively. I will definitely choose Kraken Priestess as she seems a powerful healer and the only option. Why would I pick? There is no other healer, I need one. I feel forced into this role more than choosing them at the moment, though I imagine this will change as the game goes on and more champions offer more diverse playstyles. Healing options, defensive options, and all of that. Though, if it's built around a team of 3, then surely I'm always going to be forced into picking a tank, healer, and 1 DPS. The Holy Trinity, as it's known in MMORPGs. Around this point, I started to feel like I was mastering the combat already, but I reluctantly chose to not write this in my notes. Until now. Because as I travelled on confidently, I happened upon an enemy near some poison mist, which led to the most difficult fight in the game so far. I was pretty sure here that I was not standing in the poison mist when I engaged, and to be quite honest, even after looking at the footage, you can tell me, do you think I was in that poison mist? I do not think I was, but regardless, the fight was not easy. I had to use quite a few revival potions, which is not ideal, and I barely made it out alive. Considering I'm nearly certain that I did not deserve this, you could say I was slightly miffed. All this was just so that I could get to a fishing point where I happen upon uncatchable fish because I need a different bait, I guess. Still, I managed to get a new weapon for Yasuo, which looks very nice in this game's built-in model viewer. Though, being critical, it would have been far better if this model viewer was built into the equipment UI. In fact, it wasn't long after this point that I just stopped using that equipment viewer because it's just an extra button that I don't need to press. Now, one of the most consistently positive things throughout the entire game, almost a respite, a haven amidst everything going on, good or bad, and that is the rest conversations. They are exceedingly pleasant moments of character interaction that for this fan of League of Legends is a dream come true. It's actually moments like this where you just get to see 2 characters interacting, their personalities bouncing off of each other. These are the moments that people play this game for. And it's definitely not the puzzles.
Really?
This time, I don't fear saying it, I own this game. I get ambushed by 2 groups of enemies and I make it out barely even hurt. I know how to use Alawi to heal, manipulate the lanes to my advantage, deal big damage with Yasuo and keep enemies wasting their time on Braum. Dare I say, this game is getting easy? But not the bad kind of easy, as in I'm saying this game is too easy, but the pleasant and relaxing experience of knowing you are good at this game. So good that it's easy. Okay, yeah, just watch me die in a few minutes. This gangplank crew guy
Girl put some of my best crew in the ground.
really highlights how desperately Riot need to diversify their voice actors, because this guy is definitely the same voice actor as Vander from Arcane, but weirdly enough I actually just looked it up now and researched the voice actor, who is called JB Blanc, not sure, I'm gonna go Blanc, and really strangely he actually voices Braum. Props to the voice actor for being talented, and I didn't even know that, But not props to Riot, because this pirate guy is definitely also this guy.
I know a kid. If she wants to get taken by the Black Mist, that's not my problem. That path? This? It's not gonna solve your problems.
Definitely Vander from Arcane. I did not jinx myself, pun intended, by stating how well I'm doing. I find myself upon a boss, and whilst I do have to revive Brum once, just one time, the enemies hit really hard and sometimes it is just unavoidable in this game, but the boss is relatively easy for me. The bosses provide a unique and fun combat experience where instead of the quicker fights with usual enemies, the bosses are slow, they take a long time, there's build up. This means you're able to build up character bonuses for massive damage, such as having all of Alawi's tentacles and using her ultimate to do massive damage whilst fully healing a teammate, or stacking up a lot of auto attacks with Yasuo, leading to incredible damage, or just more time getting to look at Brum. That's really a very good point as well. And on the subject of good views, the views that this game provides with its beautiful unique art style are something unforgettable so far. I've seen a dense pirate shantytown with buildings stacked upon each other. Not particularly unique, but very interesting. Then, later on, you see this same place but overtaken with a supernatural mist, something of which I can't think of from any media I've ever seen. I learn a new technique to make combat much easier. Depending on the environmental hazard, it can be used to take advantage of the battlefield. For instance, here I get the shielding one, seemingly fairly weak. You get a 50 damage shield. Less than healing, and it just mitigates some damage then disappears. However, if you combine this with Brum's abilities, giving the whole team shields and his ultimate with a larger shield, you end up with near invincible teammates who have shields so large they can't be damaged. Such a small mechanic provides so much gameplay manipulation and player customization over gameplay. It adds a random element and it is brilliant. A pure and true innovation on the classic JRPG turn-based combat where every single round of fighting is slightly different. I have an encounter with the ghost of a girl whom references Fresh. She did not go towards him as her family did, and now she lingers as a spirit. Not gonna lie, most of us picture a white light or God when we die. If it was Fresh I saw when I died, I would stay the hell away too. And then the second spirit... weird flex, but okay. All jokes aside, these spirits are part of a completely optional side area which rewards you with a bunch of general loot such as potions. But when you find all 3 spirits and return their necklaces to some altar, this is a really messed up mansion. You get a very potent necklace for Yasuo, or whoever you choose to have high damage and crit. Really, it was more about the experience and completionist requirement of looting all of the chests and getting all of the collectibles, because as with most RPGs, you level past your loot quickly, making it obsolete. Moving out of the paranormal infested pirate town, we travel into the ancient and abandoned Buru temple, which the pirates had pilfered. Doing so, we get a cutscene showing how Misfortune and Alawi had fought another established champion, the undead horseman Hecarim. The enemy variety shows a drastic change as you move through areas, which is good. Seemingly so far, no overused assets or recycled content such as reskins. Yes, everything is still quite green, as it's either the brown and green of a shantytown, or the green of the supernatural, or the green of an underwater temple, but otherwise it's unique. Above land we have spirits. In this temple we have unsightly monsters attacking the unworthy. So unsightly that one such arachnid type monster I dare not show you, to protect your beautiful mind from the fear. You can see this Kraken priestess though? Another puzzle, which is again embarrassing to even be considered a puzzle when it's actually just a roadblock. Water blocks my path, you have to press a button, walk to a glyph, press another button, walk to the other glyph, done. It isn't a puzzle, it's insulting. I mean, even for a child, it requires no puzzle solving, no thought, it's just press a required button. It does lead to one of the best mini-bosses yet though, one which again I will not show you because this area loves disgusting spiders. There is a big spider that's built into the land like a hermit crab, and then there's little spiders, and a lot of them, and they're ugly and small and unwanted by pretty much everyone. That's all. It's well designed though, and requires you to change up usual tactics and manipulate the lane system to beat all of these enemies. And the puzzles do not get any better here either. After being very confused because I didn't realise that for some reason this one door was now unlocked, I get the most generic puzzle known to gamer. It's one of those press buttons until everything lines up puzzles, or one of those boring classic mirrors like bounce the light until it bounces on the right thing. It isn't interesting, it isn't engaging, and it's easily done, even if you just guess your way to finishing it. So far, the puzzles have been baby's first puzzle from the PS1. I expected better. I mean, we just had Breath of the Wild, some of the best dungeon designs ever with unique puzzles and concepts. Here, we get a Legend of Zelda puzzle more basic than Ocarina of Time. I see one of two reasons that this happened. Either A, the developers chose that they needed that cliche of having a puzzle in a dungeon and they were really lazy about implementing it, or B, and probably the more likely one, they think that their user base, their player base, the average gamer of League of Legends that this is marketed for is stupid. Hence why I find this so revoltingly insulting. The only bonus is that for those more curious, you can manipulate the next very basic puzzle of point the light to where you want to go, ooh, and you can bounce it into an optional area and get a secret reward. I mean, it's basically just like press X an extra time on one of the mirrors, or, but you know, it's something. Pick your battles. Alright boys, get your cameras, we have a tentacle off. This tentacle monster is clearly evil, because when the tentacles are attached to the body, it makes you evil, but when you control the tentacles and they aren't attached, that's okay. It's true. Anyway, this is probably the first true boss, and it introduces its own new elements into the combat. With this battle, it isn't damageable, unless you stack debuffs on her minions, such as Brum's Concussion and Yasuo's True Damage or Poison. When you kill the debuffed minions, that damage transfers to the boss. The good news is that this fight was fairly easy. I managed to stack enough. I only had to kill 3 minions to win. The bad news, Brum took a massive hit and died in the very last round, so kind of ruins my easy thing. Luckily though, this does solve a mystery. Do champions still get XP if they're dead? Usually they don't. In Ruin King, they do. This means death and risk to finish a fight isn't bad like in other RPGs where you get penalised experience for taking risks. This might seem minor, but it really helps this game bring the combat together and add a very action-like feel to what is a tactical RPG system, and in my opinion is a major reason why it feels so refreshing and innovative.
Once I had loved him. Buru found him, barely alive, and brought him to me. I tested him. I gave him what he wanted, sent him on his way to chase his destiny.
Okay, let me just try and understand this cutscene. So basically the game is set up on the premise that an old ex from a toxic relationship is getting his revenge because Alawi tested him. Oh my god, I hate it when my partners do this. And then after testing him, sent him packing on a boat. Not gonna lie, Gangplank, sharing your nude parchments of her on Only Champions would have been enough. Don't need to end the world, really don't. Now, maybe the puzzles in this game are suited for me because I only just noticed the giant speed up letters on the left of the screen, which definitely help with pace, but I also feel that it's a little bit too fast, and so I decide to just keep it off unless I know an encounter can just be blitzed through. The double speed devolves to a chaotic mess of noise, and it's far less pleasing to play, and also feels like you lose control a little bit in that confusion. As I head back to Miss Fortune to report Gangplank is alive and planning to kill everyone, I stumble into another rumour or side quest. This one has me very obviously rescue a very obvious pirate woman from a cell who's very obviously playing dumb. The quest doesn't really give options, it's just rescue her, so I do it. Then I get punished and told I'm stupid for believing her. I really do not get these side quests. They feel out of character, pointless, and a complete waste of time. Future Shane here, just so you know, Nothing ever happens with this woman. You never see her again. You let her out and she tells you that she's going to come kill you or something, and then she never does. So, again, very pointless. The next side quest though, oh boy. Now, let me just say, if you think having a few ants in your house is annoying, or a fly buzzing around your bed, or spiders in your shower, well, imagine this is in your favourite chest. Which, by the way, this angler trickster was by far the hardest enemy I'd had in this game so far. It could fully one-shot Brum, and I even died. My first death in the game. Total death. So, flashing back, you know, to when I said this game's easy, oh, I lied. Already screwed that up. Whilst I definitely had the moment of pure terror as I realised I died and lost my progress, it was replaced with appreciation when the game opted for the modern autosave. There is nothing fun or superior about having to remember to manually save every 5 minutes. I don't have the memory for that, and I greatly appreciate that you don't make me remember. If you think you are superior for remembering and having to constantly manually save, then congrats, I will contact Mensa for you. I head off to do some window shopping at the black market fish market place. The options are very enticing here. You can choose skins, rune books to power up characters, or a key. Naturally, I chose the key, the mystery of it. What does this key take me to? The answer is a bunch of good loot and some potions, a nice kickstart to the journey, which I feel is officially starting with the tutorial now over. Ignoring that I'm actually 31% through the game apparently, according to the save screen. One of the items is a silver bullet. I give this to Yasuo as it provides tons of attack power, though I'm not really sure what he does with it. Maybe he's packing heat under that cloak. Whatever the case, the amazing silver bullet did not stop me falling through the floor and getting stuck. It seems Bethesda helped develop this game, and don't you worry guys, this is not the first bug, so get ready for many more. You do not know what's coming. I meet up with Miss Fortune and learn a few things. First, the miss part of Miss Fortune is pretty static because she really doesn't like men. It won't be misses anytime soon. Second, Alawi is the reason Gangplank is alive, and she doesn't want anyone to know about that. Lastly, Miss Fortune joins us to finally kill Gangplank for good. I'm not sure what happened to Ari at all, or why Yasuo has at the moment forgotten about her and is quite relaxed, but regardless, the party that we've been spoiled on is nearly fully assembled. With the new addition to the party, I decide to swap out Brum for Miss Fortune in hopes Alawi can self-sustain with heals while the other two kill everything. This was a huge mistake, as I find out in the very next fight as Alawi dies nearly immediately. If I am to complete this difficulty, I need to have a very optimised team, which means I need that holy trinity of tank, damage and healer. I really want the damage dealers that are coming up, as Yasuo and Miss Fortune are not my preferred choices. After realising I messed up with my party composition so badly so that I wouldn't actually make it far without losing nearly all of my healing items, I go to change my party. Except I couldn't. I had no idea how. I opened menus, I had no understanding. So I Google it, and it turns out you need to find a rest point to change them, which means just to sub out one party member to another in this very big city, I have to backtrack massively to find a rest point. Okay, I go find it and I do that. I go to remove Miss Fortune and put Yasuo and Brum and Alawi, and I can't. I have to use Miss Fortune. Why give me options of party members if I don't actually have options? Why force me to use Miss Fortune? There is no needed reason for this. It just removes player agency. What if someone loves Yasuo? They aren't allowed to use him because Miss Fortune is the captain now? It makes no sense. It feels forced. If you are going to do this, at least have a story reason for characters maybe leaving the party to force us to use Miss Fortune's mechanics in a way that makes sense. On easier difficulty, you know, this wouldn't be so bad because party composition doesn't quite matter as much. But it does on this difficulty. I need Brum for the entire game for his tank build. I need Alawi as a healer. which means I'm forced into whatever damage dealer they decide for me. Despite being forced to play as Miss Fortune, I do learn she has an incredibly potent ultimate and very good damage. Even if I do prefer Yasuo over her, she provides some sorely needed multi-target attacks. And in fact, after having finished the game, I would say that she is the best for normal enemies and clearing up large clusters of them. Unlike most games, this one even lets you pet the dog. Well, kind of. And already we're back to the insultingly easy puzzles which require only the most basic intelligence. I honestly think I got more difficult puzzles from Dr. Kawashima's brain training when I was 12. The combat is definitely getting more manageable now, as you'll see from this 2-chain encounter with a very intimidating enemy that I make quick work of. Especially with Miss Fortune, as I said before, non-boss encounters are mostly a breeze thanks to her ultimate ability. I'm able to recover quickly from setbacks during combat and end fights with a large pool of HP. Often I even manipulate the combat and drag it out slightly to heal up ready for the next fight. I'm thinking that Miss Fortune is better at these group encounters, but she really is not as good on bosses. But we shall find out about that soon enough. We have more characters to come. The game also attempts to keep variety during dungeon exploration, with this one having a sniper aiming and ready to damage you if you go into the open for too long. The section where this mechanic is introduced is extremely short-lived and offers little to no challenge. You just don't go in the open. Is this game another game that puts in lazy attempts at new mechanics to spice up gameplay, but the result is akin to a bay leaf in a pasta dish? It does nothing. My annoyance that I'm locked into Miss Fortune grows as Yasuo hits level 13 before anyone else, and gets a new, even more powerful ultimate ability that I can't and won't be able to use until the game stops forcing me away from what I want to do. What is surprising though is a moment where we get choice. I have no idea on the repercussions of this, and I don't think I would personally trust this slimeball pirate who just murdered 2 of his crew stone cold. But it's a game and he doesn't threaten me with his guns, so I allow him to join my crew, and he provides me with varying passive items depending on the position. Now, in my notes here, I wrote about how I wasn't exactly sure on why this was in the game or the impact that it would have on the game. Let me just scrap that, okay? Those notes are being thrown in the bin because I forgot about this, and I never once got a single item from this guy. I never met him, I never interacted with crew on my ship. I don't know what the point of this was. It feels like it's something that was supposed to be taken out the game and was just left there. To cement the ease in difficulty, or maybe just my adaptation to the difficulty, the mini-boss for this area is a very smooth experience indeed. I do not struggle and end the fight nearly full on HP. Does this game get progressively easier as it goes on? I do wonder. Nonetheless, with the massively popular champion Graham saved, nah, I'm messing with you, this is just some random pirate dude. Anyway, with Graham saved, we chase the main story to the Shadow Isles. Real glad Miss Fortune calls out Yasuo for walking a cliche line between badass and cringe.
I prefer not to have an audience.
Ah, yes, the lone swordsman. A classic tale.
Jokes aside, these moments where the crew interact, talk, bounce off personalities, intricacies in preference, jokes, attractions, religions, it is all exactly why a League of Legends fan wants to play this game, but more so the kind of character growth and relationship development that keeps players engaged. Not just League of Legends fans, but everyone.
Captain, there's an angry giant headed right...
Did they say angry giant? Oh god, here we go. Did we sail into a cheesy Attack on Titan fanfiction? Just turn the boat around, for the love of god, turn the boat around. Oh, it's just a fish monster, never mind. A really powerful one with a lot of health. Okay, back to the Attack on Titan fanfiction, turn it back around again. Seriously though, this boss was heart-poundingly difficult, and other than one moment where it one-shots 2 members of the party, it was pretty well balanced too. And balance is something that so far the game has done exceedingly well at. I've never felt like the game was unfair in difficulty, I've never felt like the bosses were insurmountable, or that they were designed in a way that was unmanageable for the player. And now, seemingly with everything involved with this game, there is always some bad with the good. I beat the boss, and it felt great. I felt rewarded, dare I say. However, I apparently did not beat the boss. Apparently, it was actually about to beat me, as a cutscene shows Pike, another well-loved champion from League, saving the day and confronting Alawi about her testing him and stating his desire to kill and punish the tyrant Gangplank. I'm more than happy and excited to have Pike join the party. I just do not think it's good design to strip away a player's happiness at defeating a tough boss. I think if they wanted Pike to save us and that to feel rewarding and evocative, then they needed to achieve that through the fight. For instance, when a boss gets to a certain threshold, or a party member does, or even just a second stage to the boss, have Pike join and save the day, rather than Pike just turning up late and finishing off a boss I just did all of the work on. Okay, actually that sounds a lot like him in actual League now that I think about it. As I step foot into the Shadow Isles, the game again chose the cards in my hand for me. I must use Pike, which means there is no freedom to express myself through the party system, because to survive on this difficulty with relative ease, not even ease, relative ease, I need Brum to tank. Though he could be expendable for Alawi as a tank, but then you'd still need Alawi as a healer, as she's the only one, meaning I get no choice. I'm happy to use Pike though, so I am fine with it in this case. Others though, they may not be. A lot of undead haters in real life. Why do you think the ratings for Walking Dead have gone down? People really don't like the undead anymore. My guess, related to the scary C-19. Maybe, just saying. Pike has the most complex combat style so far. His abilities do many different things and have many different reactions to each other. And what? No, Pike, please don't do that to the infected razor fin. The game does a great job reinforcing how different the characters are and how they all handle situations differently. A barrier stands in our way, Misfortune just wants to shoot it. Alawi knows that's dumb, so do I, and so do you, I imagine. Pike wants to do this his own way, and he sneaks off. Each member disagrees, and each member is distinctly different. They aren't really teammates, they're just forced together. This is only more evident when you get to this awesome moment just after, where Pike says, from Pike's standpoint, he's just using them to kill Gangplank, and one of them is on his hit list too. Having such a unlikely team who are so different is great, because it adds stakes to the game, not knowing if they will stay together, and also adds weight to any relationship developments that happen, because it's unlikely that these people would connect. However, bear in mind they've executed the foundation to this party well, but it doesn't mean they're going to proceed with the development well. Often developers do one of two problems: either A, nothing happens, they just keep butting heads and they never develop as a party, or the more common thing is that developers just make them like each other. Like at a certain moment, click of your finger, they are just chummy, best friends, and they like each other, and it happens almost without notice. Getting used to Pike, I'm seeing how insane his damage is. Not just can he make himself invisible, he can apply random debuffs, bleed, poison, execute, and increase gold drops from enemies, but he also does damage this high. Now, this is obviously pretty cool, but due to the restriction in characters, the very linear, railroaded areas with little player exploration, and the mind-numbing puzzles, the game is feeling very, very linear. So much so it just feels like I'm unlocking the latest DPS character as the next step up. The powerful iteration. Yasuo is now obsolete, Misfortune is now obsolete, and Pike is the superior option. Now, I can't test this because I'm literally unable to due to the game, and by the time I'm able to switch back out, it'll be no doubt because I've unlocked my next forced character, which will be Ari. So when she is unlocked, we will then find out if I'm correct or not. This isn't strictly bad, it's just a strange choice because RPGs are supposed to encourage player expression, to roleplay and to be free, and so far things feel very restricted and weighted towards certain characters and actions. So much so that I wouldn't agree with the RPG tag that the developers chose and possibly change that to turn-based dungeon crawler, as it feels more like I'm traversing linear dungeons with a turn-based combat system rather than being a part of a role-playing game with expressive freedom, because really I'm not role-playing, the roles are chosen for me, I'm just playing. In a usual JRPG you get choices of diverse characters that you know nothing about. You learn about them and discover them, their combat styles, how they influence each other, as a story unravels. This is done in a mysterious and unknown world. In Ruined King, the characters' personalities are already known and out there, and at this point they're fairly well established characters too, so there's no backstory or personality to discover. You don't get to pick what party members you want to play as, and the world isn't expansive or open. The only thing that really makes this an RPG is leveling up, looting, and skill points. Now, don't take this as me criticising, it's more that the game isn't living up to the genre it's defining itself as. That's both good and bad. People may come in expecting it to be a certain way, but in reality this game is quite unique. It takes a good few elements from different genres and combines them to something that is fairly new and refreshing. Though again, always bad with the good. It appears the game really struggles with the floor. I've fallen through it, and now I just cannot stop moonwalking it. Unfortunately, another case where I had to restart the game and reload, and this time the autosave was a few minutes prior and a lot was lost. And as I said earlier, this is not the start of the bugs. You are going to be very surprised. Oh my word. The first tolerable puzzle. I mean, it isn't revolutionary and it is very simple, but requires actual thought. I had to actually think. And okay, yeah, it wasn't thinking like, what's the meaning of life? And it was more like, what's 1 + 1? But still, it's an improvement. Do you want more proof Pike is just a straight up better damage dealer? Well, his second ultimate is quite literally an insta-kill, as it does more damage than any enemy has health. Even when an enemy has a chunky shield like this one, he still one-shots them. Why on earth would I pick Yasuo or Misfortune even if I had the choice? There's a certain period when you first start playing a game that I call the honeymoon phase, where everything is beautiful and wonderful and you're learning, and eventually that starts to dissipate, and you're left with a realisation that this is the game that you are stuck with. Good, bad and ugly. Firstly, for Ruined King, the dungeon exploration. Yes, the world is absolutely gorgeous. The painterly art style, whilst green for the entire game, is a sight to behold. But, well, the actual exploration of it has some issues. This is mostly for cities, but the only way to know where you're going, and if it's the right way, is the map. So for every 5 steps you have to open the map and look, close it, 5 more steps, open it. This pertains to dungeons too. Just less so, as they are generally linear and have no fog of war for you to need to look where you're going. Easily fixable by adding a quest marker when you press R3, or even just a minimap, but no. Now, you probably won't believe this, but the second issue that starts to get a little grating is the ultimates. Yes, they're epic at first, and they encapsulate the characters whilst reminiscing on their League of Legends combat style, but there's only so many times I want to see the fairly lengthy scenes. Now, bear in mind you often use them multiple times per fight, and there can be multiple fights in a row. You cannot speed them up or skip them, and there is nothing engaging, such as a quick time event in Final Fantasy X, which uses up that cutscene time with button prompts to help with this issue, and it just leaves you with dead air, just waiting and watching something you've seen 1,000 times before. As soon as that honeymoon phase of, wow, that's so cool, ends, you're just left with, okay, hurry up. So I then switched to fast mode permanently, which is sad because I feel the game loses quality doing so. The animations become messier, noises mix together, and combat feels a blur. But the alternative just feels too slow, too much waiting. I wish there was an in-between 1.5 times, as that would be perfect, or options to just speed up the ultimate abilities only. I then have a battle where I forget to taunt with Brum, which led to the entire party dying simply because this one enemy one-shot party members. Just showing this as an example of what I mean by less RPG choice. I need Brum, I need Alawi to heal, and I need whatever DPS they choose for me. Nonetheless, I flee and get the option to try again. And trying again shows me that a really nice touch by the developers is that enemies don't respawn when you run away. They're dead for good. This makes encounters feel a part of the world, living, breathing and dying. In other games these encounters are random, and by running you just give yourself the chance to heal, but progress is reset. In this, running is a fair strategic choice as it doesn't reset progress at all, and you can come back in swinging. Though I also thought this could have been a bug as it showed the enemies being alive but with 1 HP. Future Shane here. What you just heard is probably the most depressing thing in my entire script, because the worst, most horrific bug I've ever encountered in a game is related to running away from a fight. So all of that praise stings really deep. You will find out about this later and probably subscribe to me because you feel so bad for me. Thank you, you're such a lovely person.
It's cold. It's not normal. I feel it even...
Brom never feels the cold. But here, my bones rattle.
You know what, Brom? I don't blame you for your bone rattling with Yasuo nearby. The combat is now a very nonchalant experience for me. I can just walk around without much fear. Run into a mini-boss? No issue. I mean, here I just run straight into 2 unknown enemies without much care, and it was easy. Apparently though, I am a little too nonchalant because afterwards 2 worms ambush me. Now, I thought it was using some quicksand because I got stuck and couldn't run, but no, it was just me getting stuck in the floor again. That's number 3 now. I was feeling fairly critical of the random semi-stealth sections littered throughout the game. It didn't feel like it added anything other than the risk of walking into enemies who will just one-shot me. Maybe more balanced in an easier difficulty, but still, it wasn't exactly thrilling new gameplay. It was just wait in a bush. However, later on you do get this cool Pike solo section where you can loot treasure, avoiding a clearly much too powerful golem. Now, I'm nervous here because I need to fill my bestiary, so after carefully looting the area and noticing the developers cleverly turned off saving here, I head outside to save and go back in to collect him as an entry, and hopefully able to flee afterwards. I very not cleverly attempt to beat the enemy, I then very cleverly, but probably not so cleverly after dying, cleverly flee and fill the bestiary. It isn't all to the depths for this game though, as it does start improving upon itself in some areas. This entire level section you've seen has been quite open. Whilst each section is fairly small, it branches off in many areas to optional sections with treasure and avoidable mini-bosses. The areas feel quite explorative and expressive with unique enemy variety and slightly changes gameplay, such as a buff shrine or stealth moments. It is far from perfect. Areas are fairly similar, enemies tend to only face danger if you take on too many at once, and the stealth is mind-numbingly easy. But there is option here and exploitability in some semi-open locations. Even after navigating my way to the correct section, I find myself again faced with a split in the road, where we meet another League of Legends character, looking absolutely amazing, brought to life here, unlike its very outdated design in League of Legends. The fight is also amazing, both difficult, fair and lengthy. Battle of attrition requiring smart choices as you have to use multiple lanes to weaken the enemy whilst keeping all focus on Brum. Then, as is tradition, as you deal the killing blow, somebody has to come in and ruin the good job you did. Here, Ari protects and stops Maokai from attacking us. Here we learn the intricacies of the plot. Fresh is the true villain, giving Gangplank power from inside his fortress. Fresh is the controller of the Black Mists, and one of the most popular champions in League of Legends. Funnily enough, he is a support character, so it is both funny and surprising to see him as the great evil here. We also get some information on the history and how the Shadow Isles came to be, but we pretty much already knew that from the introduction cutscene. Then, we unlock Ari and her hopefully unique combat style. The question is though, will she render the previous damage dealer Pike as obsolete? We're about to find out simply because we have no other choice. The pleasant surprise here is that Ari can actually play as a healer. Now, I didn't try this because I could see by her abilities it is nowhere near as consistent as Alawi, and it's just way too risky. You have to gain stacks by attacking, and those stacks cause healing. So at best she's a half DPS, half healer, and because of the difficulty, as I said, I need that holy trinity. I need dedicated healer, damage and tank. I'm real glad though that everyone's a gentleman and respectfully listens to Ari. Another puzzle that's so good, so well refined and so thought out that I accidentally solve it. I pressed a button randomly, went to check out the answer, which was also confusing because it was completely unrelated to what Ari was talking about, and then pressed the same button and I'm a genius who solved the puzzle. Side questing has definitely been poorly designed. I'm just going to say it. Now, I may have just not seen this, but you actually have to track side quests or else you'll have no idea where they are. And for some reason, you can only track 5 at a time, as if having a big marker is an issue. Further, when I start mopping up these side quests that I'd forgotten about, I find they're at a much lower level, meaning the rewards are useless and the XP rewarded is set to 0 because the enemies are so weak. So essentially, the game sets up side quests as very tedious and boring with little reward, doesn't inform you about needing to track them down, and then when you finally remember that little reward is now no reward. A very minor positive point is that it does award enchantment materials, which I find out I have a lot of, and is used for upgrading current gear's rarity, but I generally wouldn't use them in fear I need them later on for tougher content. It's the unfortunate problem with games that are difficult. You have a higher desire to conserve precious resources, which is ironic when you need them more on a difficulty so hard. I always did this on Fallout games, drinking dirty, smoggy water until the level cap to save my 10 million stim packs. Anyway, enchantments could be useful, and I dabble realising they aren't quite as rare as I thought. Still, you can get these materials just by fighting enemies and playing the game. You don't need to do side quests for them, and the side quests are entirely redundant. Except, unbelievably, a side quest led to an entire optional area that is designed better than any main area I've been to so far. It has unique landscapes, new enemies, albeit varieties, multiple bosses, branching paths to secret areas, a bounty, a fishing area and treasure. Some sections require you to find hidden items to access the hidden area, while some areas are very easy to find. I have no idea why this area was designed so well compared to the main areas, which are just hallways with a room or two attached. It's more annoying because I enjoyed the area despite it being completely pointless because I had out-leveled it. And again, I do not blame myself because the game did not make it clear that these rumours were worth doing, nor that I had to track them manually. And even then, even if I did do them, I was nearly over leveled without having done them. If I had done them, I would be over leveled for the main content, which would have reduced the difficulty balance, making the game easier. This leads me to feel pretty much conclusively that these side quests were tacked on, little sprinkles of shit on an otherwise very good game. Oh look, somebody has very kindly made a cameo to give us some tech tips. What a guy. With most RPGs, if you want to level up, you grind XP, right? Pokemon, Final Fantasy is always an option. Even mopping up old side quests gives some reward worth having. Seeing as this game doesn't, I wondered where we could find some power. And then I remembered the fishy black market. In this store, you could buy rune books. So I head on there to do so and discover not just can you buy 1 rune book per champion, but 20. That's enough points to fully unlock every rune and gain immense power. You don't grind combat in this game, you grind fish, you don't grind the fish, I mean you farm the fish. Sadly though, to make things even more difficult, I can't actually buy the rune books, or at least not all of them, because there's a trophy standing in our way. There is actually no trophy related to getting enough runes, but there is for costumes, so I have to spend something like 600 black marks, which are rewards for fishing, on costumes. The rune books cost 20 each, so it's not actually that difficult to get all of them for one champion, the damage dealer, but because of the trophy I can't. This situation right here, this option, it is fake. Do not trust it. Many get locked out of the trophy for filling the bestiary up, because if you pay this enemy gold, you will never see him again, and he is a bestiary option. Now gladly I knew of this ahead of time, but for those who didn't, it's pretty scummy from the developers, or maybe just an oversight or lack of playtesting, which I think is very obvious for this game. Either way, these kinds of practices can really kill a game's completionist ranking and turn a make me into a break me. Arduously, I finish all the side quests, and it is by and large no fun time. There is an annoying amount of backtracking and talking to NPCs for little reward. Then, whilst doing this, it's also annoying because you're having to open and close your map constantly to work out where to go and who to talk to. Afterwards, it's sometimes even a pain just finding out where to go because certain markers will overlap into different floors. They do flesh out the world with some lore on other lands and the very unprofessional Bilgewater residents, but overall, these are just time wasters, and they're there to pad out the game and justify your Netflix subscription. I just discovered that the intended age of someone playing this game is 2 years old, as shown through this puzzle. Here, you have to mix 2 colours to get yellow, and 2 colours to get cyan. Wow, this is quite the challenging puzzle. Why on earth did the developers add a puzzle to this game based on a concept that children start learning when they're 2 years old? This is by far one of the most insulting puzzles I've ever had to face in a game. I kid you not, I had the original Game Boy. I had the original Pokemon Yellow on the Game Boy, and that game had puzzles so much better than this, so much more unique, and even then, when I actually was a child, those puzzles were good. There is no excuse for the puzzles in this game whatsoever. Oh my god, it's the thing, it's the thing on the box.
Is that it? The ancient king's sword?
It is the blade of the ruined king. Within it sleeps his spirit.
It seems the real motive of the enemy is not the harrowing to destroy Bilgewater, but using this sword to gain the power of the ancient King Viego, now the Ruin King. Gangplank has to fight him in a battle of willpower, yet of course a real villain hides motive behind lie, and really, Fresh is using Gangplank to take his body and then reap the souls of all living people. Why he wants souls? I don't know man, people do be liking feet these days. First, Alawi convinces youths to turn to alcoholism, and now this?
I too struggle to find truth.
I'm starting to think she's an imposter and she might actually not be a truth bearer, you know. I finally reached the boss fight of this massive 2 to 3 hour long area. Probably more if you factor in the sequence prior to me with all of the side quests. But now is a good time to tackle the furry in the room. I claimed that every new DPS was better than the last, and that Ari will be the best. Well, as you'll see by this boss fight and how quickly it ends, yes she is, though not necessarily for this hardest difficulty. Now, I will have to compare and see, but I feel Pyke is actually slightly better for this difficulty. Ari does do insane damage, but she has a long build-up period which makes her kind of inconsistent. Pyke is pretty simple, every attack does good damage. If it wasn't the hardest difficulty, I would pick Ari. She has stuns, AoE, heals and more. But when a single turn can be the deciding factor between life and death, you need a character with good damage and consistency.
Take this seed.
Oh god, Maokai, where did you get that seed from? What is that? Is that a seed or a nugget? Oh god, don't take it.
Take this seed.
A minor issue that started happening was a lack of progression. Once I hit level 16, I only got runes and ability points, which are great, but they're just number adjusters. In that moment I realised that this combat, this gameplay, this is it until the end now. I felt the progression ended very early. Then I encounter a ghost philosopher who can unlock characters' true potential. For some, they must kill enemies. For others, find an elusive and rare item. For Ari, well, just a very brief and momentary conversation about her holding back and then suddenly she's able to tap into her true power. This is exactly proof the developers chose who they wanted to be strongest. Ari. The most recent character gets most of Pike's damage with healing and a free tier 3 ultimate without any effort on the player's part. Where's my counselling ghost in real life to solve my inner turmoil? My ghost just steals random socks. I had also previously said how side quests were pointless because enemies don't provide XP. Apparently this is not so much the case, as I discover enemies in this old area scaled to my level, with new enemies and varieties thrown in. One such variety is apparently one-shot kill enemies that I seemingly can do nothing about. I mean, look at this! These side quests are absolute miserable hell though. You have to do a ridiculous amount of backtracking and walking around from A to B and back again while struggling with the fact you have no mini-map, so you need to open and close the map over and over. Then, to make everything even worse, the bugs. My quest to unlock Misfortune's third ultimate requires me to get cannon blueprints by killing a bounty. I had already killed this bounty and thought I didn't pick up the blueprint, so naturally I walk all the way back there, which takes a good 10 minutes, then find the bounty stood there when he shouldn't be, almost T-posing. I started getting both worried and confused, so checked my inventory, and I already have the blueprints. So the quest marker didn't update itself nor show me the correct location, wasting a lot of my time. These side quests were definitely designed to pad out the game or make me cry. There is also an issue that's been weighing on my mind without the right time to talk about it. Now everyone, is that time. To reach an underwater temple, Alawi needs the special serpent bearers. These serpent bearers can control the ocean, but they are also the last defense. This exactly is the issue. The game cannot provide stakes to the established characters because we know they do not die, and cannot die. This means that any stakes or important story moments must happen elsewhere, to the side characters or cities. So, very obviously, Alawi moves these serpent bearers from Bilgewater to get into this temple. If there can't be high stakes for the characters, then why not this location? This issue just goes deeper though, because we do not care about Bilgewater. We hear Alawi say why she likes it, Misfortune too. But as players, we only see criminals, swindling, we get ambushed, we get attacked, and we get betrayed. We have no reason to like this place, so even these forced stakes are simply not there. And this is exactly the biggest issue with the game. There is no drive, no care, no emotion, nothing impactful or meaningful. Sure, it's fun, the combat is good, the gameplay is fairly innovative, but there's just nothing else. Essentially, the game is like an episode of filler in a good show. It's good filler, but filler nonetheless. I do believe their upcoming games will fix some of these issues. The Champion Nunu and Echo are both getting games solely focused on them. While there are no physical stakes, as they cannot die, there can be stakes on emotional growth and development. For example, seeing Brum become the legendary hero of the Freljord, or Pike's descent to becoming an assassin of the depths, Alawi's trials to become the truth bearer, and so on. The character concepts have always been gold, yet here we bypass them, ignore them, and instead we focus on some gap filler. As I said, it's good, we get to see the champions alive and breathing. But it's not enough to carry a JRPG style game with turn-based combat, as they heavily rely on story and characters. It results in the game feeling unfortunately very shallow and dull. This is not to say I don't like it, but it certainly doesn't evoke anything from within me. And now as the combat starts to dwindle with nothing new, there's just another 10 to 20 hours of the same old with a pointless story. Unless of course they do prove me wrong. Alternatively, there are some spots of sunshine in this very grey, dull world of Bilgewater. You get these heartwarming or sometimes scary exchanges between characters when resting, seeing the stark variance between how Pike and Alawi act. Yet they have similar duties, punishing those who are not worthy of life. You get to see how Misfortune is honourable to those she likes, but exceedingly cold when needed. You get to see how Yasuo refuses human companionship, but secretly enjoys Brum's company and starts to warm up to him. Whatever the case, it's always beautiful moments of exceedingly unique characters bouncing off of each other and tackling in a very natural way how they function with others unlike them. It's unfortunate this only takes place during rests and that the general story is pulled by their constant teamwork. For those who have played Guardians of the Galaxy, this game could have really used a heavier focus on them being a dysfunctional team, trying their best to just work together. With the perfect Brum, who actually just doesn't have a flaw, of course. To summarise, all of the really good moments of the game where the characters and personality shine feel locked away to the rest points, and then the general narrative plot has none of it. It feels like shallow shells of the characters are working together just to continue the story. Another new wonderful bug to bless us with its presence. I am accessing a UI menu, then get attacked, and have to do the entire fight with the UI menu stuck open. There is a lot of strange bugs, strangely enough for a game themed around water and the undead. The game starts finally turning the tide when it presents me with an actual, real, legitimate puzzle. Is it hard? No. Is it a puzzle that requires some level of thought? Yes. I understand the developers were being smart and performing good design by providing players with a basic use of the puzzle idea and then expanding on it later on. But first, your puzzle idea is generic. The whole mirrors reflecting light thing, it's been done by many games, Tomb Raider and Prince of Persia just to name two. And they did it a lot better than you, by the way, even then, like 15 to 20 years ago. Basic overdone puzzle design aside, you also made the first instance as basic as humanly possible, meaning it takes 10 hours to get to a serviceable puzzle for a child. And trust me, I'm stupid enough that if I say your puzzle is for babies, it really is. At this point in the game, the combat becomes even easier, though not for any bad reason. By now, you will have gained a lot of runes, chosen good abilities and enchanted some armour. Fights are only a breeze because you have made yourself powerful. I have two examples of this. First, when Pyke just straight up one-shots 3 enemies in a row with a normal ability, and then when Alawi uses her tier 3 ultimate to fully heal the entire team. She only heals this much, and Pyke only deals this much damage because of the way I built them. So this is good, that the game makes you feel powerful and that builds matter. Though it is unfortunate the game doesn't make it clear that some of these big numbers are because you did a good job, as the tooltip doesn't specify additional healing or damage, only the base probability. A really good addition would be factoring in bonuses from skills in the tooltips, for example showing that the heal is actually 200% because of X effect. Even more evidence of how manageable the combat becomes with a good build and skill. Here, I chain a 5-wave encounter and I finish it with relative ease, as I didn't even need to be extremely careful when fighting. Half of it was just letting the characters automatically auto-attack, and the rewards were extremely lucrative, providing me nearly an entire 2 levels. Okay, seriously, one last example of how powerful you can get if you have a good build. Just one. How about seeing Pyke do more than 50% of a boss's health in one go with a whopping 17k damage? With the boss dead and Maokai's seed purified, that was the thing he got out of his arse, right? Okay. Ari starts to turn or go evil, something she's been scared of doing this entire game. And we're supposed to be all happy that she didn't kill us or we didn't kill her or something, but we know we're not going to kill her. She can't die, so it just falls completely flat. Again, showing that the stakes are really low in a game where canonically every character stays alive. The only stake, really, is personality, emotional development, and party companionship. I'd be more concerned that Ari and Yasuo don't get some alone time than one of them might die. Then again, Yasuo might die in said alone time with her, so I'll take it. And another bug. This one is by far the worst one yet, as it completely hardlocks my game. I am smashing and spamming every button. Pause, cancel, everything, and nothing works. I have to restart the game and hope autosave made up for yet another bug. Moving onwards with the story, I get a detailed monologue explaining the cutscene at the start with Viego. It's all very obvious what happens, and this monologue provides nothing for the player, except maybe the main characters exclaiming the world might end, though, you know, we are the heroes, so it kinda won't. Again, no stakes. To stop this calamity, we just have to go kill that guy with a foot fetish. You know, in a way, when you think about it, the underworld is like a subway for life. So you could say, Subway, beat fresh. Okay, sorry, that one wasn't so good, sorry. I'm keeping it in though. The realm of Fresh is despicably unique. A long-forgotten regal temple is overtaken by the realm of the undead. It's a very unique mix that works well, though it is quite similar to what's been experienced throughout the game, a dark tinge of green that seemingly taints everything. It's logical and thematical though, as the spirit realm slowly overtakes the game world. Overall, the fact that this palette is used throughout the entire game is completely justified, and it works. They add just enough variation to keep things exciting, fresh and beautiful. The more you progress through this game, the easier the boss fights get. You deal more damage. They also do. But they die before you have to worry. Fresh though, things start to change. He does a lot of damage and can straight up one-shot kill members of your party. This fight is purely a DPS check, meaning you have to kill him and his 30k HP before he wipes your party. You can delay death by cleansing his one-shot kill mechanic called Terror, but it isn't sustainable. This is why Pyke is the best damage dealer. Ahri requires build-up, Yasuo a lot too. Misfortune is good, but not so much for bosses, and is better with normal enemies and groups. Pyke, however, can deal outrageous and consistently high damage to bosses. Even when he is unable to attack, he leaves bleeds and poisons on them. Though as far as I see, we have two fairly obvious bosses left to kill, Gangplank and the Ruined King. Without hesitation, it's straight to Gangplank, where he is unknowingly releasing Viego, a very excited Viego who's a little too into this.
Yes. I can feel your desire, your fury. Now, release me!
Guess Fresh must have showed him his soul collection. Beating Gangplank is a very minor challenge, but a fun one nonetheless. The game also once again spoils its own story by informing us we killed possessed Gangplank. A very interesting plot point though is that the Ruined King's relationship with his wife Isolde was actually not so perfect because he hides away memories of himself scaring her before her untimely death. They don't exactly explicitly say what he did, but they allude that it really was not very good. It's believable to see a villain so passionate when really he is just a man lost to grief and guilt. He isn't a god, he isn't even really evil, he's just a human going through loss. Okay, maybe a somewhat unstable and powerful human, but you get my point. To chase the Ruined King, just like any true anime, the party joined together as one, supporting each other and making each other more powerful to get through the predicament at hand. It falls a little flat when the party haven't really gotten close or expressed emotion to each other. Well, other than Alawi thirsting for Brum, or Yasuo thirsting for Ahri, and all of you watching thirsting for Misfortune. So I guess the only emotion development is a lot of thirsting. Until Gangplank decides that he's now a good guy and doesn't want to destroy the entire world just to have Bilgewater. And now he wants to do it the right way. I guess when it comes to getting your butt whooped, second time's the charm. I think it's clear at this point that I've tried every single character. I mean, yes, because the game forced me, and I've decided on who I like and who I don't. With the end clearly nearing, I'm happy with my party choice, with using Pyke, Alawi and Brum to make combat a breeze. Then the game forces Yasuo upon me. There is no reason for this. Yes, he may have a story moment upcoming, but why is using him in combat a needed part of this? It is not. The devs forcing me to play who they want me to play is a real killer in what should be an open choice role-playing game, and when the end is nearing. This really annoyed me. Let's find out how much worse Yasuo is than Pyke in the past 20 levels of not using him, and if I was correct that Pyke is the best. Because I don't really have a choice but to find out. Pyke really knows how to talk to a woman.
Do I frighten you?
If that's your goal, you'll have to try harder.
And that's why you're the only one no one's firsting over, buddy. This is where one of you viewers proved me wrong. You're firsting over Pike with someone. Who are you firsting over Pike with? Tell me. Tell me right now. Gamers reach this section of anticipation nearer to the end of a game, where you feel it's close, it's palpable, but you also don't know how far away it is. Everything irks you a little bit more in this stage. Annoying enemies piss you off. Slow sections feel like a lifetime. You are consumed with the desire to reach that palpable moment at the end. Now, imagine that, but the game also forces you to play as a character who's weaker than your preferred choice, causing slower fights, and this is even after the game is throwing incredibly powerful items at said character. This is exactly what Ruined King has done. Forcing Yasuo upon me, it does not help this last stretch whatsoever. There are moments of good design to combat this as the developers build the level puzzles around Yasuo. They provide him unique enhancements and throw the aforementioned powerful items at him, but if I order a burger and you give me a hot dog, I don't really care how precious that sausage is. It ain't what I'm craving. Yeah, Yone, I don't understand why Yasuo's showing off those foot sausages either. Just wear shoes, bro, or at least be civilized and wear Crocs.
No, brother. Yone, you don't understand.
You're right. I do not.
After Yasuo's annoying little detour sorting out his family drama and emotional damage, thanks for that Yasuo, Alawi sums up all that's left before the final showdown with the Ruined King.
We have no records of its location. I will find this forge, purify this amulet, and trap...
Teenagers, am I right, Buru Elder? As I'm heading to do this very exciting concluding section of the game, I figure it smart I redeem fish at the Weird Fish Black Market Guy. Then a sense of existential dread and misery overtakes me as I realise I should check the rumour monger for side quest 2. This dread tilts towards depressive thoughts as I see 6 side quests. If your players experience fear of a side quest, you should probably not have the side quests, just saying. You may also notice the characters go through a quite dramatic visual change at this point, and that's because I start focusing my black marks from the fish on getting the skins needed for the trophy pertaining to obtaining all skins. Pretty basic, fish, get skin. Much better than spending real money as you can through the PlayStation Store. Shockingly, as the end approaches, the side quests are not damned wastes of time anymore. They're unique, difficult, and rewarding. There isn't any story there and just pointless random characters providing you go get X objective. However, the content is great. First, I'm exploring the new fishing areas I've unlocked, when I mistake one of them for the most difficult bounty I have available. At this point, it is 3 levels higher than me, which might not seem like a lot, but when you're in this difficulty, even a single level leads to some very difficult encounters. As you can see, this boss is daunting. It has a crazy amount of health, far higher than any boss I've seen yet. It can one-shot Brum, and by all rights, on the hardest difficulty, I should not be able to do it. I manage my items very carefully and try to cheese the fight by constantly having Alawi reviving Brum whilst Pike gets ready to do insane damage. And it works. Now, my Pike is already disgustingly strong with enchanted armour and items. However, by defeating this boss, he gets even stronger because, as I said, these side quests now provide tangible loot that will carry me through to the end game, and maybe even post-game content. This is because most of these quests actually lead to the legendary items that you get later on. They are without a doubt worth doing, if not for the loot, then simply for the fun challenge. After mopping up that boss, the same situation happens where I get a really good side quest to go to a new side area. Here I encounter something that the developers should have employed throughout the entire game. Brum gets a new dungeon ability to use, where he uses his shield to block traps to protect Aporo. Adding more mechanics to dungeons is exactly what this game needed to move itself away from an old school traditional JRPG with really bland dungeon design to a more modern one with dungeon design like Breath of the Wild, where it's dynamic and interactive. The game should be utilising the champions in unique ways to solve out of combat puzzles, to delve into dungeons and build on teamwork. Instead, the puzzles are just bouncing light off mirrors. Ooh. Nonetheless, this side area is perfectly short and sweet, unique, and offers the hardest, though still stupidly easy and generic, puzzle so far. I also get a new item topping Brum's health pool to a whopping 10k, which makes the quest reward of only 2,000 gold when I'm sitting on hundreds of thousands tolerable. Are they good side quests? No. Are they enjoyable? Somewhat. But they do now lead to good content that lets the game do what it does well. Prior to this, it felt like the developers were either padding content out or creating it for the sake of the game requiring a very stereotypical go here, fetch X side quest for generic NPCs. Now, they focus on providing scary and exciting boss encounters, utilising their unique combat system, and short but sweet dungeons that emphasise the beautiful art and one-of-a-kind playable characters. Then the game delivers to me the worst bug I have ever experienced in a game that I've played, and I don't really fully understand the repercussions of this bug at this moment. Here I am killing the final enemy of a side quest, one that leads to a legendary weapon in the post-game. I do this with ease. Then the second wave looks a little bit more daunting and more of a hassle than I'd like, so I just run away, very smartly. The game teaches you that's completely fine, and go off to turn in the quest. That is, until I realise it didn't count as me killing the enemy because I ran away, yet I still killed the enemy, so the game checked it as dead, but not as me killing it. Reloading didn't fix it, restarting didn't fix it. My only hope here is that this fixes itself as I play the game, and that if it doesn't, that this one side quest doesn't lock me out of the platinum. Between you and me though, this may have just ruined the entire playthrough. This one moment may mean this game is incompletable. And if that's the case, you know whether this game made me or broke me, so let's just get into it. I could talk about all of the good things that happen in this final section, how the area is vibrant and beautiful with colours popping, how character arcs get wrapped up nicely through story cutscenes, and how they reach new resolutions, some as a team, others against people in the team. I could also talk about how well designed and unique the two recent bosses are, especially so the second, the Avatar of Nagaburus, which utilises every combat mechanic in the game to really test players' skill, or even how I enchanted and upgraded Pike's gear to the point he has 10k HP and nearly 10k attack power, making him pretty much near broken. But really, everything good is diluted by the impending doom, not of the final boss I'm about to fight, but by this damned side quest bug locking me away from completion being possible. So after this great final section, I head straight to the side quest area, the dense forest, to check if the enemy is there, if completion is possible, and the enemy isn't there. Truly, I will defeat the Ruin King to be able to say I did everything I could to get this platinum, but very soon after this final boss, I know I will hit a wall, and this video, this analysis of completion, this documentary, will end as abruptly and as unfortunately as a single bug has ruined the Ruined King. Forget the ruination in the game. Forget this Halloween. One tiny bug on a side quest, a very obvious mistake that should have been picked up in playtesting and fixed by devs, that bug is the ruination of this game. The Ruined King is a worthy final boss. Everything aside, it is a long fight. You will need to have a plethora of healing items and you will need to do everything it takes just to stay alive. And maybe then, if you're lucky, get a few attacks in around that. Eventually, fighting off ruined versions of your own party, you will win. And everyone will just watch while Miss Fortune does all the work. I guess Alawi gives her a back rub, so that's nice of her. The ending is extremely mundane for Miss Fortune. At the very start of the game, I criticised how people often use the revenge plotlines, how the never-ending cycle of miserable characters chasing something they'll never ever get is possibly the most boring trope. Now, luckily for Miss Fortune, they set up that she had already found revenge and she was left feeling empty, having to tackle the loss and grief inside her without hate pushing it away. They of course just have Gangplank live and then get away. Miss Fortune disappears angrily and that's that. What a great ending. The entire party having a bevy while Miss Fortune sips on the cliche of revenge. Pike isn't there, but for those who follow his personality development throughout, they will understand why. He explains he is a tool to enact justice and seemingly believes that. So his bevy is the bottom of the ocean, I guess. Salty, just like Miss Fortune, who the game sets up for a sequel as she's chasing Gangplank while Pike writes Viego's name on a list. I don't really get how that paper is working underwater. I guess the Deep gave him special waterproof paper, probably made in Japan. They do be built different. As for the other characters, none of them are handled particularly well. There is something there which I will get into, but it's fairly shallow. You don't really see much emotion and nothing really happens to them. When there is a resolution, it happens really quickly. You get Alawi, who doubted her religion and her faith throughout the whole game and eventually comes to terms with that, meeting her god. It was pretty decent and it was a really good boss. It wasn't complex or deep, it was done in a very simple way, but it was good. Yasuo starts off as this very grumpy lone mercenary, and he transitions very quickly to just being a member of the team, and then suddenly he's fighting off a spirit of his brother, and that's that, and it's all over. His is probably one of the worst. There really isn't that much build up, they don't really tackle how he's thinking or feeling, other than that he feels really guilty about his past, and we never see him kiss Ari, so 0 out of 10 there. Then lastly, the perfect Brum. Yeah, really, I feel like he's the comic relief character. He's there just to be really positive and kind and goofy and funny, and he does really well at that. He balances out everything in the game super well. It's just pretty unfortunate that you don't really get any resolution to what happens to him after the game. He gets the cure for his homeland for Freljord, but you don't see anything of that. You don't see people celebrating that he's a legend again. You don't see any of the party going to Freljord. Personally, if there was a sequel, I would like to see the party go to Freljord, meet a few new characters and develop further as a team. But yes, as you can tell, wrapping up the storylines and what was done with the storylines, it wasn't particularly complex. You could summarise every single character in one sentence. It wasn't ideal. Ari's was definitely the best because you feel like you're getting her at the most critical point of her life. She's questioning everything, her past, her identity. She's been alone up until now, so she's building her first real relationships and connections ever. She gets a really good resolution where she finds out about her ancestors, but that also gets taken away from her in a way that's also open. So they did well with Ari. It was still simple. It was still quite shallow, it wasn't built upon or done in depth, and the game doesn't expand upon it or really show you her emotions, but it's definitely the best and it isn't bad. Overall though, don't expect some really complex, amazing, elaborate relationships, just expect to see some characters, their personalities, and a very small amount about their emotions, their goals, their dislikes and their likes. And with that, the mostly sweet with a hint of bitter ending is done. All that's left is a few journals, creating some legendary items, enchanting a few pieces of gear, and, you guessed it, one side quest. So, praying to Nagaboros, I run to the dense forest for the 7th time. The path there burned into my mind. I turn the corner, hoping the enemy is there, and, of course, it isn't. So that's it, the end. The bittersweet finale turns pungent and rotten. A positive update is that I have been in talks with the support for Riot Forge. I've sent them footage and a bug report, which they said they will work on fixing and hopefully have a hotfix available. The video is about to release and I just had to edit in and include this little bit of info showing how positive, kind and helpful the developers have been and how willing they've been to fix this. If it does get patched, I will amend my video and I will update it, but I reviewed it and documented it in the state that it's in when I played it. My videos are about the experience of trying to fully 100% complete a game, and sometimes that doesn't go to plan. It doesn't always go well. We're all normal people. We're busy, we have jobs. I'm not a YouTuber that can sit here and dedicate 100 hours to platinuming a game because that's my job. This is a hobby. This is something I do for fun and to show you all what it's really like. And sadly, for part of this game, what it's really like is a lot of bugs and an incompletable game. The big question, League of Legends story, The Ruined King, did it make me or break me? I'm sure you all know that it without a doubt broke me. The game is extremely flawed, the foundation of combat is excellent and innovative, but that's about it. This combat is not nearly enough to carry the mundane and redundant story, with very basic character arcs, mind-numbing side quests, outdated dungeon design, puzzles a child would laugh at, its very low locational variety, and the most game-breaking bugs I've ever seen in a game, and yes, I mean more than Cyberpunk 2077 at launch on PS4. In essence, the game excels at creating a fresh combat system, but takes 10 steps back in every other element that makes a tactical turn-based JRPG excellent. Expansive worlds, detailed personality-rich characters talking, laughing and growing together, a world with stakes where your actions matter. All these things are not there. The heart of the game is corrupted. The result is an experience that feels very underwhelming sometimes, and if it wasn't for the rich lore of the League of Legends universe, its beloved characters and a very, very good combat system for this genre, it may well have been a subpar experience. So yes, the game broke me. That isn't to say I didn't enjoy my time though, because I really did. I enjoyed seeing more of the champions from the game I've played my entire adult life, and that really did carry the game through. Just enough to the end, and if completion was possible for me, I would have done that in a heartbeat. Especially considering there was only around an hour of content to mop up anyway. And while the game is flawed and left this really bitter taste in my mouth, I do miss it. I wish I got to platinum it, and I did enjoy my time. The combat system is really good, and it's great being able to see these characters brought to life. I just really hope that if the developers make another game in this style, they look at the elements at what makes this form of game good, and they try to make those better, because everything else surrounding what I said was good is very bland, very unforgettable, and sometimes below the bare minimum requirements for a tactical JRPG. But despite the game being a break me, it holds a special place in my heart, mostly because of Brum. Thank you everyone for watching. It also breaks my heart this video had to end so abruptly, and I sincerely hope they fix this issue because it shouldn't be in the game anyway. So guys, please give me a comment, let me know what you thought. I don't care, you don't have to subscribe if you watched it this far, you don't have to like the video, none of that. I just would love to have feedback and get some conversation going and know what you thought of this game and how you felt, and if you disagree with anything I said. I'll see you very soon for the next episode of Make Me or Break Me, guys. This one will be out much sooner, where I'll hopefully be feline a little better. Keep aiming for the top, you perfectionists.